My name is Jamie Whitehorn, and I work for British Airways. I have the honour there to be a senior analytics consultant. It's a wonderful job title. Nobody really knows what you do, and you can pretty much do anything you want. I've been there for about 5 years. Previous to that, sort of done various jobs. I've been in the industry for about 30 years now. That it probably explains the grey beard and the grey hair and everything like that. To start off, I'd like to start with a quote. Who knows who this is? Yes, got hands up. Rowan Atkinson, otherwise known as Mr. Bean, Johnny English. He also does great stand-up routines, and one of his characters is called Sir Marcus Browning MP, and he's sort of a pompous British politician. So I'm going to try and imitate it. I probably won't do it very well. In that routine that Rowan does, he's talking about going on a journey. And since my talk is talking about the BA journey from corporate outlier to corporate mainstream, I thought it'd be appropriate to run through a couple of lines from this. He says, "Where are we? How did we get here? Where do we want to go? And have we got a map?" And I can tell you, when we started our journey 5 years ago, we most definitely did not have a map. What I'm going to do today is outline the kind of journey we went on. I'll sort of fill in some of the interesting bits, a couple of fun facts that we discovered along the way. What I'm going to hope is that you can come with me and sort of experience a bit of the enthusiasm, a bit of the ups and downs, and maybe take away from it some of the things that we maybe didn't do as well as we could and can help you, if you're on the same journey, make it easier for you. So I'm going to run through where we are now, some of the techniques we use to grow Tableau at BA, some key technology enablers. This is just going to be two sort of quick in-depth bits, but they're two things that have really helped us on our way. A couple of fun facts that we learned along the way. They're in the synopsis, so I have to cover them. And journeys never finish, so where we're going with this journey. Okay, some facts about BA. They're actually fairly normal facts, but we're all data people, so any data fact is a fun fact for us. So, 270 aircraft in the fleet, 145,000 passengers a day, 850 flights per day, 45,000 employees, of which I have the honour to be one, 16,500 cabin crew. That tells you that a third of our workforce is actually cabin crew. And nearly 4,000 pilots, 10%. I put those two groups in there separately because they're the important ones. They're the ones to be nice to if you meet them. I'm not that important. I'm quite happy if you want to be nasty to me. All of that, though, generates a huge amount of data. How do you actually visualize all that data? That was the question confronting these people 5 years ago. In case you're wondering, by the way, I'm the sort of, well, beardless one hiding right at the back. Up until this point, we were kind of using SQL and Excel to actually look at the data and visualize it. And the problem we were hitting is we were just blowing the top off Excel. We just completely overloaded it. Now, a couple of us there had just done an MSc in data science, and we'd been exposed to visualization tools like ClickView, like Tableau. So we started pushing the management, saying, can we have these tools? Now, the problem was these tools cost us back then a couple of £1,000s a license. And if you've ever had to persuade management to part with money, it's difficult. We managed to persuade them that it was worth laying out the money for at least a few licenses just so we could show them what they could do. Once we started showing them how fast we could turn the data around and the kind of insights we could give them, they rapidly became sold on the idea. And that's kind of the start of our journey. But a journey is a timeline. So I want to run you through, so that we've got some context with the other bits I talk about, the timeline. So there we are, 5 Tableau enthusiasts gathered around, starting to analyze data and starting to introduce British Airways as the possibilities. We rapidly found out that there were other little clumps of Tableau users in British Airways, but they were kind of spread around all over the place. And British Airways, 45,000 people, quite a big company. It's also part of an umbrella company called IAG. Other bits of that had bits of Tableau around. So it was quite difficult actually finding out who these other people were and starting to connect with them. Fortunately, we then got a Tableau server. And in fact, the data team who manage it for us actually decided to centralize all the licenses. And this was great, because suddenly we could find out who all the other people were, and we could start talking to them, and we could start exchanging information about how we were using Tableau, the sort of problems we were actually finding. A couple of years ago, BA decided to pull its analysts into a central team. It was very imaginatively named. It's called Central Analytics. Up until that point, we'd had sort of dots, groups of people dotted around the business, and they made the decision they were going to pull it all into one floor plate. We're still, generally speaking, aligned to businesses, but it would sort of be a bit like this. We'd be on the floor plate, and maybe that table would be engineering, that table would be IFCE, that's the cabin crew, flight operations, which is pilots, would be over there, cargo might be sitting at the back. And the great thing is we could start talking to each other. And we could start exchanging ideas about how we use Tableau and how we actually use our data. And it really has led to a change in how we process the data. I happen to specialize in attendance data. And it's now nice because I'm seeing my attendance data pop up in other people's dashboards. And it's part of that thing where people talk about the data culture and democratization of data. We are now starting to spread the data around. Our certification program. I'll talk about this one later because it's one of my little babies. And you can see that one's ongoing because that's what the dotted line is where we are now. But remember I said a journey doesn't finish. So the next big adventure we're going on is we're starting to look at self-service for data. So people who actually need the data can actually get the answers themselves. So, where are we now? We currently have one Tableau server. Well, we actually have a couple of others, but they're sort of dev and things like dev and test, but one production server. On that, 270 desktop users. We also have about 30 Tableau sites. Good thing, bad thing? We'll talk about that a bit later on. And about 4,500 site users. We are rapidly ramping the number of people who are using the server. So that's a sort of our end users. That's the one where we've seen the recent explosion and it taking off. So I've sort of outlined a quick journey there, but how did we actually grow Tableau at BA? There were good bits, there were fun bits, and then there was the bureaucracy. How many of us here are in large business? Oh, yeah, quite. Yeah, you'll know all about the bureaucracy, won't you? So, how did we do it? Good grief, there's a lot of stuff on there, isn't there? Don't worry, I'm not expecting you to remember it. Think of this like a buffet. You're coming along, you're looking at all this, and you can just take away the bits that you want. Whatever you do when you look at this, don't feel intimidated. It's quite common when we go to conferences like this that we get lots of new ideas, we think everything is great. We go back to actually the real world and our office jobs, and we think, how do I implement? Or, oh, I've no idea how I'm going to do this. And you get a bit of a downer when you come away from the conference. Take my advice, pick out a couple of things, take those away and do them. So while we do that, those ones I'm going to cover in a bit more detail, but the others I'm just going to run through very quickly and give you a sort of couple of lines on each of them. Finding other people, we've kind of covered that. The big key for us was when we got the server and the licenses got centralized. Then we could find out who else was using Tableau. And that is really good because you start talking to people. and it sort of brings you along with the Tableau community, the data fam. Here we are. I have to say that Tableau has one of the strongest senses of community and the nicest community I've ever been involved in. Part of the thing I did when I started using this was I reached out and found the local Tableau user group. How many of you here are involved with a tug somewhere? Yes, lots of hands. I've been really lucky. My local Tableau user group is the London group, and that's run by Laura. Yay, say hi, Laura. By Laura, Sarah, Paul, David, and Pablo, and they are great people. They put on events at least once a month, and you get to meet people there. They're so friendly, you learn great things. So if you're not involved with it, or you're not involved with the tug, strongly suggest you reach out to them. But it's not only about the external community, it's about building an internal community. And there's been various talks on this, and at the start there was a data leadership seminar on the Monday, and a lot of what we were talking about there was how you actually grow a community sort of internally. Now, a lot of these things I talk about will actually be relevant to that. Remember I said I was going to flip through quickly? Well, kind of building your own community is something it sort of deserves its own little slide. London Tug, October. There was a great talk by Philippa Law and Charlotte Nichols from Lloyds Bank on how they drove their Tableau community at Lloyds Bank. And it was great because I could see they was hitting the same kind of problems that we hit as we went along. And as I said, it's great to reach out to people. One of the things they said was it takes time, effort, and commitment, and you have to be commitment to build your internal community. And it can get quite dragging at times because you're trying to build this community, and sometimes it feels like you're not making any progress. Quick side piece here. How many of you have been to those kind of sort of community building events at your business where they say, find out an interesting fact about people? Now, Suto stole my line at this point because I wasn't going to get you all to turn to each other and find out an interesting fact and then tell you didn't need to do it. Instead, what I'll do is I'll give you an interesting fact about me. So if we're ever in this situation, we're pre-prepared. You already know an interesting fact about me. We have dogs. We do dog agility with our dogs. I'm actually a dog trainer, part-time. I'm an Agility Club accredited instructor, and I'm a Kennel Club, this is UK Kennel Club, qualified judge, so I can judge agility events. I help people train their dogs. And when you're teaching people how to do things like recalls, because everyone wants good recall, it's fairly simple. You get your dog to come back to you, and you start from a very short distance, and you give them a reward. And you repeat this several thousand times. And you gradually extend the distance, and you introduce new distractions, and your dog keeps coming back to you. And it's all going great. And then at about a year, it all goes pear-shaped, and your dog gets interested in everything else except you. And we get people coming to us and saying, it's all gone horribly wrong. My dog won't come back to me. And we stand there and go, don't worry. Just keep doing it. What you're doing is the right thing. Just keep going. It will fix itself, honestly. If anyone's interested, by the way, it's about a year there's a developmental change in dogs. I could go into it in detail, but this is not a dog training seminar. The key thing here is keep going. And it's exactly the same when you're building your Tableau community. You will feel that you're hitting a brick wall at times. It's not working. Please keep going. We're lucky in BA, we have a very vibrant community now, but it has taken effort. So let's nip back in. These are some of the things we use to actually do our community. Who here knows about Makeover Monday sessions? Yes. How many went to the Makeover Monday session on Tuesday? Yes, a couple of hands. Makeover Monday, for those of you who haven't come across it, is a weekly event where you're given a data set and an old visualization, and you reinterpret it and sort of try and improve it. And you can do it alone, you can do it as part of the community, you can submit your results if you want. The way we do it in BA is we actually have a conference room reserved on a Monday for about an hour, And anyone who wants to can come along there, and they can either have a go at rebuilding on their own, or we sometimes just do it as a group and see what we can pool to come up with. But again, it's a great thing about getting people together and talking to each other. Doctor sessions. How many people have been to doctor sessions? How many people have run doctor sessions? Yes. Again, we do these internally. And what we do is we get people to submit questions. We triage them to see if we can actually answer them internally. If we can't, we're extremely lucky because we have a very nice support team or account team from Tableau. Our account manager is Rob Syrad. Our technical support is Rachel Bowes. How many people went to Rachel's talk earlier today? I get the brownie points. And what we do is we feed the more difficult questions into Rachel so that she can answer them. But if you do this, keep track of the questions you're getting and keep track if there's any monetary value with them. Because again, that's a great way to justify to your business the money they're spending, and I'll cover that again. Paired to that, we do Skillshare presentations. They're sort of about an hour of something that might be relevant to people. It might be tooltips, it might be new features that are coming out. It'll almost certainly be one from here, or probably a couple of them, about what we learned at the conference. And again, it's about getting people together. We run these on the same day as the doctor session, so it's a day when people know that Tableau stuff is coming along. Remember I said BA is part of an umbrella organization called IAG? Well, we do cross-company calls where we sit around once a month and we all talk to each other about all the problems we're having with Tableau and complain about the latest thing about that's gone wrong or whatever. Now, I'm aware that not all of you are going to be part of a big umbrella company. You can do this with other people in your industry. It might surprise you to know, but Tableau actually run a cross-airline Tableau call. We're on it. Virgin are on it. Our bitter rivals, obviously. BA is best, I'd just like to say that, obviously. Marketing is probably going to watch me. But it is amazing how much you can find to talk to people about these things that you have in common, and you don't have to be giving away any company secrets or anything that's company confidential. It is just about talking about the problems you're having, and you can get an amazing amount of help out of the people. In-house education. This is kind of a surprising one. We run a beginner's course. It's made up of a set of exercises that people go based on some dashboards, and they basically have to recreate the dashboards, and the dashboards gradually get harder. It takes about 3-4 hours for people to work through this. When people come in, if they come in Central Analytics, they go through this course so that they get up to speed on Tableau. Now, what might surprise you is we also have this advertised on our internal intranet site within BA. And when somebody who's not part of Central Analytics starts using Tableau, they go on the intranet, they look for Tableau courses, and up pops our course. And that's another way we can find out about these people and bring them into the community. Management sponsorship is key. You need somebody from the management team who's going to speak your case. We are really, really lucky. Alex Cruz, head of BA, is very much into data. And the belief that BA and essentially all companies that want to survive have got to become data-driven companies. So we get a huge amount of support, and that ripples downwards. If you're not in that lucky position, find somebody in your management team who's enthusiastic about data. Cultivate them, get them to put forward your views, your needs. The dirty word, the bureaucracy bit, governance. It's a pain. It's like all bureaucracy type stuff. It's a pain. It does actually have benefits. Don't get caught out. I mean, we, in Europe and everything, we have GDPR. We have to be very careful about personal data. Governance is that bit that allows us to put in place the rules so that we can make sure we're adhering to what the government wants us to do. We have a governance committee. A couple of my colleagues sit on that governance committee so that we can advise them on what sort of best practice. Did you notice how well I segued into the final point there? Best practice is brilliant. It's things like when to use extracts, when to use direct live connections, should you use templates? Get your best practices set up and get them rolled out nice and early. Colourful picture of what it sort of looks like in BA. Like I said, there's a lot there. Pick out the couple of bits that are relevant for you and just take those away. This is where I cover a sort of couple of bits in more detail. Skills champions. This is something we have inside BA. We even have nice little badges. I have a badge. In case you haven't worked it out, I'm a skills champion for Tableau in BA. Now, this bit's going to be death by PowerPoint. I just want to warn you. Skills champions, what are they supposed to do? Champion Tableau. High degree of skill. They're the kind of people who self-motivate and self-develop. They develop the education. They oversee the website. They answer ad hoc questions. They show leadership. They keep up to date with industry standards. They deliver the education. Why on earth have I just rattled through that so fast to you? I didn't write that. That's actually the BA definition of what a skills champion is to be. So when you're invited to become a skills champion or asked if you want to, that is what you sign up to within BA. And skills champions aren't just Tableau. We have skills champions for data visualization, for R, for SQL, for SAS. You can be a skills champion for a particular business area. BA already has this sort of heritage of having skills champions. But skills champions are great for driving forward within your business. Now, skills champions are not management. I'm not management. I'm a techie person. I like to be left alone with the data, and then my management have learned that if they do that, nice things happen. We also have skills experts. I'm not going to... You'll notice it's a slightly smaller set. Basically, the skills experts are people who help the skills champions, but they're not tasked with driving everything forward within BA. What this kind of gives you a hint of is it's not just me doing this. I'm very lucky. I have another skills champion in central analytics called Katie Ennis. She helps me enormously. I also have a team of skills experts behind us. This means if I'm not there, there's somebody else to take up the load. And like I said, when you're driving this stuff forward, it can sometimes get you a bit down because you feel like you're trying to push a big ball up the hill, and it's difficult. If there's more than one of you, it's much, much easier. So again, if you're a reasonable-sized company, drive forward with this. Certification program. This is one of my little babies. Tableau Certification. How many desktop specialists do we have? Yep, couple of hands. I know it's qualified as certified associate now. They changed it after I did the badges. Qualified associates? Yep, reasonable number of hands. And certified professionals? Yep, still got hands up here. We don't have any Zen masters in here, do we? Ooh, that's sort of the pinnacle. We might aim there. We want to take our analysts through these certifications so that they have the opportunity to become certified if they want to. This is completely voluntary. Nobody has to do it. But it gives them something that is an industry-recognized certification. We want to make it as easy as possible for them to do this. And we want to reward people who want to learn. Skills, any kind of skill like this in the analyst community is valuable. Challenges? Oh yes, we had challenges with this. Surprisingly enough, one of them was buying the vouchers. Those of you who have done this will know you go onto a website, you buy a voucher, and then you can do the certification. We wanted to bulk buy these vouchers so that we could just give them out to people. So literally it doesn't cost them anything. They don't have to worry about the money. The website, it turns out, you can't do purchase by purchase order, which is BA, large company, loves doing purchase orders. Fortunately, Rob Syrard, our account manager, has been very innovative and allowed us to actually bulk buy vouchers by purchase order. Why didn't we just go out and use a credit card? Well, the problem is if you're buying like 70 or 80 of these vouchers and you're potentially looking at sort of spending £25,000, how many people want to put £25,000 on their credit card in the hopes that they can then claim it back from their company? I know I certainly don't want to do that. Well, in fact, my credit limit wouldn't let me do that, but that's beside the point. Providing the education. So what we wanted to do was give people the boost and the education if they're not to the standard already so they can get to the standard. Now, Tableau provides some great courses for this, and when we started doing it, they cost $450, I think it was. They're now down to 109, 99, something like that. But it takes about 4 days to run through these. We know our analysts are very good, they're very bright people. We condense those courses down so that we can deliver it as 4 half days. Why do we do that? It's difficult to get people out of the business for full 4 days. That's almost a tongue twister, isn't it? Full 4 days. It's much easier to get them out for 4 half days. It's easy to get people out of the business for half a day. We also wanted to provide them with the support because when you do the certification, there's various things you have to do. It's a proctored exam, explain to people what it's going to be like, that kind of thing. We also want to provide a place for them to take the exam. When you do the exam, you have to be in a room which has no books on it, nothing on the walls that could possibly give you clues. You have to be nowhere, there can't be anyone else in the room with you, and the proctors use your webcam to make sure that you're adhering to this. Now, when I started doing it in my house, there isn't anywhere that doesn't have books, apart from the bathroom. And I thought, this is going to be interesting when I explain to the proctor why we are sat in the bathroom. Fortunately, it turns out if you hang sheets over everything, they're happy enough to accept that. But we wanted to provide them with a place. There was also a thing about we wanted to provide them with a laptop. Now, when the proctors run the exam, they take over your laptop. Unsurprisingly, the IT department of British Airways were really unenthusiastic about an outside organisation taking over a laptop. Can't imagine why. We came up with the idea of having a dedicated laptop that doesn't connect to the rest of the infrastructure and doesn't have any company stuff on it. But it's those kind of challenges. So why would you do this? It motivates people. When I first started doing this and started talking to people about it, it was lukewarm kind of enthusiasm. Okay, we're British, we're reserved, I know. But even by British standards, it was kind of lukewarm. As we started getting along, though, people start coming up to you and they're asking how it's going. Have we got the vouchers yet? They're becoming really motivated about it. It shows people that you value them. Analysts are a limited resource. I don't know about you guys, but we are always recruiting analysts. This shows them that when they're with you, you value them because you're willing to invest in them. And we don't put any strings on this at all. We don't say you have to come and work for us for 6 months, you have to stay so long afterwards. No. We just want you to do the certification. It skills up the participants. Now, here's one of those interesting little facts. In the UK, we have an organisation called the Institute of Advanced Motorists, and it teaches people how to do advanced driving. It takes them beyond the standard government driving test, which you need to be able to drive a car, and so it gives them advanced skills like looking further down the road and things like that. Interesting fact, if you look at how many accidents people who've passed the IAM test, Institute of Advanced Motorists, they're 90% less likely to have an accident. It has that kind of effect. Now, here's the really fun thing. Even people who take the test but don't pass it are 60% less likely to have an accident. And it's the same thing with this. Even if people don't pass the exam, their skill level still goes up. They benefit, we benefit. Things we discovered along the way. These are the sort of fun facts which are in the synopsis. And I'm told you have to put them in the actually in the talk, otherwise it's considered clickbait, that I put something in there and I haven't explained it to you. So significance Tuesdays, £2 million water 6 days. Right, I've covered that bit, I've done it. Oh, you actually want me to explain it? Right, okay. How many of you have built a calendar view like this in Tableau? It's dead easy, isn't it? Yes, I've got hands. It's so easy. You simply take a date, you drag it onto the columns, you select days. You drag the date again onto rows, you select months. You drag a measure on there, bingo, you have a wall chart. You notice anything significant about that one? There's kind of some patterned red blobs in there, isn't there? This is actually attendance data, because this is what I do. And the density you're seeing there is non-attendance, so people not turning up for work. And those red blobs, it turns out, are on a Tuesday. And it's consistent. If you go across years, it's Tuesdays. We looked at this. We had no idea what it was doing. We asked people in the business. They had no idea. Ideas that it could be, well, it's the weekend, so people don't commit. No, that doesn't work. It's not Monday, it's Tuesday. End of the week, no, that doesn't work either. Yeah, they've already been in work for one day. Why would they? No. Lots of different ideas. It turns out it was a rostering artifact. If you didn't come in on the Tuesday, you didn't get re-rostered until the Thursday. So effectively, you got an extra day. People are very good at discovering little loopholes like this. They probably all hate me now because since we had that chart, that little loophole has been closed. But the great thing with that is, you all know how fast is it to create something like that. If I probably really promoted, I could do that in under a minute. But you can take that to management and you can show them it and they instantly understand it. Water. Colleague of mine, David Cava, very nice guy, started looking at potable water. That's the drinking water we carry on aircraft. Now, if you're an airline, you'll know that you're very obsessed with how heavy aircraft are when they fly around because weight equates to fuel used and fuel costs you money. He came up with a dashboard that allowed the business to see what would happen if they reduced the amount of water they were carrying. Because what you don't want to do is run out of water on a plane. That's really bad. But if you can get away with carrying a little bit less, guess what? You can save £2 million a year in fuel costs. And that's what his dashboard did. You remember I said about keeping track of when you get these savings? Well, if you're talking to the business about, I would like another Tableau server, or I'd like some more licenses, being able to point and say, by the way, I just saved you £2 million, the argument suddenly becomes a lot easier. Trust me on that one. Man days. Isn't that a great dashboard? Doesn't it just obey all the rules about dashboards? It's so clear what's going on. Now, this is my dashboard, and I will defend it to you. It's actually, when we first started doing this, we couldn't put stuff up on the server. I'll cover later why. So I had to produce stuff that was could be printed out as PDF. That's designed to be printed as A3. So it's got a lot of information on it, but it's the kind of information people can easily look at. The other thing is, I'll tell you, is the business absolutely love that thing. I'm trying to wean them now so that I can get it onto the server, because I don't want to have to produce all those reports. And it does obey some rules, which it does top left, bottom right. Top left, that sort of yellowish blob you can see up there in graph, those are the most important figures. Because we could put attendance information in front of the business month on month, and this has been going for 3 years, in a way they could understand and that they liked, because that's the key thing, they actually liked this, they could use it to drive down non-attendance. That actually ended up saving 68,000 man days a year. That's equivalent to having an extra 300 employees. How much money do you think that saves? Huge amount. Remember I said about getting stuff up onto the server? I'm going to talk about a couple of key technology enablers. These were a couple of things in Tableau that really helped us push forward the adoption. Row-level security. How many people here know what row-level security is? Oh yeah, yep, getting some hands, getting a warm feeling here. We followed the model by Brent Howell in Tableau and Beyond. If you're thinking about doing row-level security, I'd really recommend this model. It's really good. Why do we want to do it? That's another of our dashboards. That one is online, thank God. That's people's activities. So this is not about attendance, this is about what they were doing. Pilots, were they flying? Cabin crew, were they flying? Engineers, were they working an early shift, a late shift, that kind of thing. That's very sensitive data. Security is paramount. You only show this data to people who are authorized to see it. Row-level security lets us make sure that only data is shown to managers. When they look at it, they only see their team. They don't see anyone else's team. And the great thing from my point of view is our company's structure is defined by something called corporate directory. It updates automatically from corporate directory. I don't have to do anything. People move into a team, they get seen by the manager. Somebody takes over a new team, they stop seeing their old team, they start seeing the new team. Where does row-level security happen? What makes it so powerful? It happens right at the top of the order of execution. It actually is implemented as a data source filter. And I'm going to suspect that most of you know what the next bullet point is going to be because, hey, we're Tableau enthusiasts here. That means that only the data that people are entitled to see actually enters the dashboard. There literally is nothing they can do at this point to that dashboard in terms of looking at the data behind it, trying to put in new filters and anything. They cannot see the data. It's very secure. Obviously, a person who can edit the dashboard can remove the filter, but hopefully that is your guys who you trust. It's the developers like me. And another great thing is it works on both live connections and extracts without modification. This has been huge for us. It lets us put up dashboards onto our server with sensitive personal data in it, safe in the knowledge that only the people who are justified to see it can see it. That's how we organize our organizational structure. A person's position is defined by what we call their unit hierarchy code. It's that set of letters underneath. And if you look across the hierarchy, you'll see that as it goes down, we add a letter on to the end, and the other bits stay the same. That makes it very easy for us to do this. So if we can link that code to the data, we can make sure that somebody only sees the data they need to see. That's how we do it. Are you actually seeing something? Because my side's just gone blank. Hang on. Technical failure here. Have you got something now? Yes, much better. That's how we actually link it. So it actually works at directorate, subdirectorate level. The piece of SQL not piece of SQL, that's the piece of filter that you use inside Tableau. It says when this piece of information equals that piece of information that piece of information. See the bit where it says null? That's the bit that allows managers to see down their level. Allows them to see anything underneath. Go and read the paper if you want to understand that bit, but it takes a while to get your head around. It certainly did me, but it's really good. Our main data warehouse is called ICW, Integrated Corporate Warehouse. It also has security. It works at the table level. It can mask out columns. So, for instance, there we've got name, we've got team, we've got data joining, and we've got ethnicity. And ethnicity might be considered a piece of personal information that we don't want most people to see. So ICW can mask that out as it's done there. This is all fake data, by the way. Row-level security complements that because it works at the row level. Unlike in this case, it would limit it so that you're only seeing the green team, Team C. And as I said, it works on the live connections. The other one that's given us a huge boost is hierarchies. We've kind of done this diagram before. When we produce dashboards, a lot of the time we have a sort of view of, say, the company, and then the areas underneath the company, which might be flight ops, engineering, IFCE, that kind of thing, and we want to show metrics at that level. What I wanted to do was be able to build a dashboard that allowed people to drill down through the hierarchy and back up again while showing the level underneath. And probably like you guys, you're probably saying, what's he rabbiting on about this? Because it's very easy. Last year, I was in the London conference in Europe for Tableau conference, and I took this problem along to the Tableau doctors because I hadn't had a lot of success getting it to work. And you know how Tableau doctors love problems, and the more interesting the problem, the more you get them round the table. I ended up with sort of 4 or 5 of them and country experts all trying to crack this problem. And what they told me was it couldn't be done. But one of them said to me, there is something coming that's going to help you in this. Now, can anyone guess what that something was? Begins with P. Parameter actions. Yes. Right, I'm going to jump out very quickly and hopefully, is everybody seeing a dashboard? Yep, right. Apologize for this dashboard. You're all going to look at it and go, that's horribly crude. This was what I put together as the technology proof of concept. So it's all loaded up with dummy data, but it shows what I was trying to do. So up there I'm displaying the data for the company, 2 bits underneath this company, engineering and HR, and you can see down there, there's the next level for the company. And that's what I mean about it, because I've got headcount there, and then it's broken down by headcount, work days, sick days, so that is broken down to the next level of the company. And what I couldn't get it to do before was, if I clicked on that, did you see how that changed underneath to show the next level down? If I click on it again, I go down to the level underneath. And just as quickly, I can go back up again. I can even go to the top and drill down another part of the hierarchy. That's huge for us because it means that we only have to maintain one dashboard that lets people drill up and down the hierarchy. Before, to have different bits of hierarchies at different depth levels, I would have to maintain 4 or 5 dashboards that literally said L1, L2, L3. If I had to make a change, I had to make it across all the dashboards. If anybody wants this, by the way, it's a self-contained little dashboard, so I can quite happily send it out to people. That's why I showed you the relatively crude version there. But that was huge for us. Those 2 things enabled us to start pushing out a lot more data. And remember I said this stuff ramped? The number of users we're getting, this is why it's ramped. Now, a journey doesn't stop, so what's the next stage for us? How many people feel this one? Whenever you give the business better analysis, better data, they always want more. They ask you a question, you give them the answer, and they come back and say, oh, that's really interesting, but what does this bit mean? We, like you, are a limited resource. Well, until they invent cloning, which apparently the company is looking at. How do we reconcile these 2? Working smarter. Well, that's what everyone says, isn't it? I can just tell you, the answer is go away and work smarter. No. How do you do it? You empower the business to be able to find their own users. I got a buzzword in there, empowering. I should have put little buzzword bingo cards on the table. You can look at tools that help people in analysis, like Ask Data and ThoughtSpot. Unsurprisingly, because we're in a Tableau conference, I'll be talking about Ask Data. But if you allow the business to go and look at the data, we're back to that thing of security. People have to be you have to be confident people are only going to see the data they are entitled to see. And that's where something like row-level security comes in. Only the right people see the right data. Remember how key I was saying about this was to what we were doing. So if you want to use Ask Data, we've been evaluating it, starting to do the rollout. A couple of things I can tell you. Your data must be clean. You need to produce data sources for this purpose, and they should be certified and curated. You need to be confident in the data the business is looking at. They need to be confident in it. The data must be presented in a way that your users can get meaningful answers. How many of you actually played with Ask Data? Yeah. It's natural language processing. So the idea is your business can say, how many pilots are there in the business? Remember I said it was about 3,900. Turns out for us that didn't work very well when we started trying to type that in. And it got even worse when we typed in captain and first officer, because those are actually held in separate fields. What we did was tweak the data to present it in a different way so that they can answer questions like that. So it takes a bit of time and effort, commitment. It's not a magic sauce that you simply throw Ask Data into the solution and everything goes away. You do need to work at this. But we see this as key to our future. Needs careful planning implementation. Our current plan with this is we're rolling it out to the analysts within Central Analytics to let them play with it. Because we get a lot of ad hoc questions. These are little questions that people ask us, literally like, how many pilots are there in the business at the moment? Yeah. How many captains do we have in the 380 fleet? So if we can answer those type of questions without having to write a piece of SQL or build a quick dashboard to do it just out of Ask Data, we save time. It also means that we can test it prior to rolling it out to the larger business and get a model and a mechanism that works well so that when the business actually use this, they get a good experience. Because what you do not want to do is push this out and the business get a bad experience with it because they will just drop it at that point. So what are the rewards? It empowers your users. It democratizes data. People who need the data can actually start looking at it. It also speeds things up. If they want to find out how many pilots there are in the 380 fleet on it, they have to raise a request to us. We have to look at the request. We have to find someone to do it. We have to get the answer, give it back, format it. We have to send it back looking nicely, and give it back to them. That all takes time. If we can get it so that they can use the data themselves, they can get the answer the minute they need it. It frees up your analysts to do interesting things. How many of you have to do boring things just so that every so often you can do the interesting stuff? Yep, I'm seeing hands come up at this point. It frees up the analysts so that they can do the fun stuff, the more interesting stuff. And that, again, helps the morale of your analysts. It also just increases the productivity. More gets done. So, I've kind of taken you on this journey, and I've shown you some of the things that we've run through, things we discovered along the way. So, 4 things we wish we'd done earlier on our journey. Remember I said about the map? This is what would have done earlier if we'd had the map. Templates. Get a common look and feel for the dashboards. Okay, this is something a bit more of large corporations, but large corporations are very keen on common look and feel. But it is also useful that if your end users see a dashboard, they know that the filters are going to be across down the side. They know that the date for the last date refresh of the data is going to be on the bottom. They know that if they see a little green arrow next to the title of a particular visualization, that's got something inside it you can click. So that they look at these dashboards and they feel comfortable. Remember I said we got 30 sites? Kind of creates a problem in a number of areas. If you're producing a site for like HR analytics, which is what I am, or you're producing one for engineering, and then you want to produce a global one for the sort of management team so that they can see all of this, it's kind of difficult to actually pull data between sites, and it's a bit messy when you do it, and it doesn't look very good. And if the CEO is looking at the dashboard, you really want it to look good. So we're currently evaluating whether we pull all the sites back into a single site and use projects underneath it to separate out the various areas. That's where the one or the many comes out. Actually, we would have more than one site because we'd have a production site where all the data sources will be certified, all the dashboards will have badges on them to say this is a certified dashboard, and then we'll have another site where we can do the development and the ad hoc stuff. Best practices. You wouldn't believe some of the disasters I've seen. Got called to somebody, their dashboard was loading really slowly. And literally, it was sitting there, and it would spin, and it would say, query, and then it would stop, and it would spin again, executing query. And I looked at the logs, and it was almost like this thing was caught in a loop. And what it eventually turned out was they were looking at instances where we break things like flight legs up into lots of bits of individual bits. But they had a drop-down so that you could select which particular instance you can do. Now, drop-downs can handle a lot of data. I can produce a drop-down that's got all 45,000 staff numbers in it, and Tableau's quite happy with that. I'm impressed by that, by the way. They were trying to drop a couple of million into a drop-down. We kind of hinted to them that that wasn't necessarily good practice. But get the best practices out there so that people understand what they are, so that they can start doing them soonest. Started our community earlier. It was difficult to find people. It's that effort to get it going. It pays dividends now. Like I said, I'm a skills champion. People know that they can come and ask me questions, and I won't send them away. I get people turning at my desk with a laptop in their hand saying, "Can I ask you a Tableau question?" My reaction is, "Sure, pull up a seat." So people know where there's somewhere where they can go and get help. If I said to you now, take one thing away that we wish we'd done earlier, it was getting our community going earlier. Because a community actually helps with virtually everything else in there. So 4 things for you to try. Remember I said it's a big buffet? These are the 4 things I've picked out. Skills champions. We all have those people in the business who are good at what they do, who you go to when you've got a problem, and they can normally answer it. Find these people, recognize them, give them the credit that's due for them, give them the resources to help them. Doctor sessions. As I said, we pre-curate ours, so we get people to submit a form, we look at them. If we can't, Rachel kindly takes them on for us. But again, it gives people a place they can come and look. And you can also that way find out about projects people are doing with Tableau that maybe they haven't told you about. And again, you can track the value on that. Upskilling. Your analysts are valuable. Analyst is a very in-demand job title at the moment. Your churn rate is probably high on your analysts. Anything you can do to keep your analysts in the business is worthwhile. The one I haven't mentioned so far, hackathon. How many of you guys know what hackathons are? Yeah, good to listen. We do hackathons every so often, so we get people into a room like this. We get everyone to sit down at tables. They all sit in their little teams. So the first thing we do is we split everyone up. So they have to go and sit with other people. And then we get them to work on some data. And it gives you this thing that people, when they work on a common problem, they bond with these people. So then they can go out and talk to them in the business. And hackathons are a great way to grow that community. So a quick reminder about where we were when we started this journey. 5 years ago, it was a small group of people essentially begging, I'm not ashamed to admit this, essentially begging our management for Tableau licenses. Where are we now? That's actually about half of central analytics. Every person there has a Tableau license. But that is our Tableau community. Well, half of it anyway. The person in the middle in the red trousers, that is my other skills champion, Katie Innes. Literally could not do this job without Katie. The person on, for you'll be the left-hand side in the light-colored top, that's Eleanor Armitage. That's the head of Central Analytics. Unsurprisingly, she's very supportive of what we are doing. But that is the community. So we went in 5 years. Now, people tell you how they ramp these things up faster. But we were literally on a voyage of discovery about how to do this. And what I've tried to give you here is a couple of things. Now, if you can even just take away one thing from you here that will help you with your business, that will make my day. Final thing is, please complete the survey. Any feedback you've got, good or bad, is very welcome. I'm quite thick-skinned. I'm not a pilot or a cabin crew. You don't have to be nice to me. So any feedback is very welcome. We've got about 5 minutes left. I'm happy to take questions. I'm also going to be around after the session if anyone wants. Have we got a mic somewhere?